together. So welcome to this edition of the Galactic Odyssey. So I'm here with my planes. You may hear them in the background a little bit. You never know when they're going to be training. So they are certainly flying a little bit already. I can hear them. So we're going to first of all set space and put ourselves in the circle, and then we'll move into what it is that's on the agenda for today. So if you just take a breath and breathe in the energy of the circle that you have created with these sisters. Different parts of the world, different experiences from Earth. And yet here we are, taking a moment out of our day, an hour and a half or two out of our day, to let ourselves be focused in the energy that is here for us with each other. And we place each one of us in a guardian circle cocoon vortex and ask that those teams creating those vortexes, healing, grace securing, PTO, removing, that we be in the experience of sovereignty, in the experience of moving together, moving into an outcome of good. We ask that we also bring in teams that are aligned to this mission that we have been on, of clearing our space of all outsider domination, destructive energies, by just simply decreeing it to be so. PTO, Deep Six, our individual spaces. Bring us those teams that we each have that are aligned to that plan, that they will be directing us, listening to us as we do mission in this moment of time. And get a sense of the energy coming from the sun, totally filled with all possibilities of good, bringing in that insecure channels, resonating out into our world in also an impact that says anything contrary to that, PTO, they're yours to handle. Energy moving right down the midline of our bodies, moving out our feet, chakras into Mother Earth, where Gaia holds us. We are rooted together. We are immovable in our roots. We can bend and we can sway and we can dance, but we are never uprooted. So we are gathered here today on the sacred ground of sovereignty, with the clarity of our Earth mission and our Earth teams for that mission. And our circle is set, opened, and so it is. And so now we're going to, I'm just going to invite each of you to place yourself in that cocoon, in that circle. And in doing so, any cords that you feel drawing you out of the circle, find out where they are in your bodies and disconnect them. Let that disconnect energy go into the tug. Gone. While you are sitting in circle, we are together focused. So Sharon Raji Maynard here, Whidbey Island, and noticing a lot of energies that are shifting and changing and expanding and really glad to be able to be together in regular circles to just realign and stay focused. So I'm glad to be here today, bringing that word I want to add to the circle is the strength in togetherness. Strength as one, I'll say. Emma, would you share?
Hi, I'm Emma in Williamstown, Massachusetts. I'm in the middle of a move, so I'm a little discombobulated and tired. I'm grateful for my lavender colored walls and a very cozy space, and feeling hopeful. Well, hopeful feels too far away and tenuous, feeling positive. And I will call on Angelique.
Thank you, Emma. Here from the Netherlands in the west part of Europe, in The Hague. It's a beautiful day today. I'm in circle and I'm very tired, and there's a really, really much shifting going on in my life. So I'm really grateful to be here with you. And I do immediately feel so much better and so much held. So I will thank you very much for your love and compassion and your tenderness, all of you. And my word is going with the flow. And I go to Cinda.
Thank you, beautiful. I'm also very tired. So Angelique, that's why you called me out, because I'm like, oh, I didn't take a nap. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. I have been so busy and I feel like I've really been missing out. And I'm so grateful to be back. And I'd like to bring in the energy of my program, the 7 Days of Grace. And the only reason why I'm bringing that in is because I just did day 3 with my first set, my first group, and just got off that call with them and came into this. So it is alive and well and kicking. And I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to bring in the Days of Grace and share it with all of you. Okay, Christina, welcome back.
Thank you, Cinda. Yes, Christina, Zurich, Switzerland. And I really don't know what to bring in here. So maybe it's, I don't know, or not knowing. Yeah, that feels kind of right. And Angelique, my heart goes out to you for your situation. Okay. So, yeah, curiosity is here as well. And I pass on to Tara.
All right, I'm happy to be back. Missed you guys the last couple of weeks. Was on vacation and then I worked last Thursday. So work has just been ridiculously crazy. Lots of people coming in. It's the busiest summer we've ever had in urgent care. So I don't know if people are scared of the COVID stuff going on and they're not going to the ER, but they're coming here and it's too much for us to handle and I'm exhausted. I started reading a medical medium book on how to heal my own thyroid. And I'm excited to start trying to heal my stuff with food because I am getting tired of being a legal drug dealer and just handing out drugs. And I'm considering taking functional medicine course to get certified and start doing functional medicine and incorporating that into my new business. So I'd like to bring in health and food as medicine into the circle. And I'd like to call on my awesome friend Arlie.
Good morning. Thank you, Tara. I have a daffodil that has sprouted, which brings me much joy and an inordinate amount of joy, much more than you would think a single daffodil could bring you. So I would like to bring and share some of that joy with the circle today. And I will call on my awesome daughter, Avi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Avi in Wellington, New Zealand, and I'm really vibing with everyone that feels kind of out of sorts, because I just got offered just last Friday. I got called for an interview for a job that I didn't apply for, from a central government agency that's been holding my CV. And then had an interview on Monday, offered the job on Tuesday, and I verbally accepted, but it's very, so I think I'm going to go with Angelique, with going with the flow, and I feel hopeful and excited, but also all over the place and just no idea what's going to happen next. So I'll pass it to Sharon Alexander.
Thank you, Avi. Congratulations. And yes, it's so great to hear what's coming out of all of your mouths, because I'm also feeling this sort of abundant energy of change, like possibilities, and the universe, is there to hold us and walk with us along these paths. And I too am excited about several things. And one is I'm coming to Portland, Oregon next week to visit my daughter, but I'll be there for a few days. And if you have time to meet, let's figure out how to connect. So I'll bring in the energy of uplifted support from the universe. And I call on Lavender Joy. Thank you.
Thank you. I am Lavender Joy, and I am in Magnolia, New Jersey, and I have been taking life too seriously, so I bring in lightness. And I pass to Alexandra.
This is Alexandra. I live in the heart of North Carolina. It's a beautiful day, under 100 here, so we're happy. I continue to be in the middle of moving and changing and repairing and remodeling and healing myself. So I would like to put into the circle healing, harmony, and focus. And I can hear you on my phone, but I can't see you. I don't know who hasn't gone yet.
I think we're all in the circle now.
Yep. Okay.
Very good. Yes, it's good to be together, and it's like a good time for being together. Pivot, pivot, pivot. Name of the game. So today is a pivot day, because we've been shining light on each other and listening to some just fun to listen to the presentations that each have given. And today, those who were going to present just had to pivot themselves. So that means I pivot. So here we are in another type of experience. And then I just went to put something in the chat. You can no longer, at least I can't from here, you can no longer copy and paste. So you have to type everything. I don't know what that's about. So we're going to, another pivot, we're going to do it a little bit differently. So I want to, first of all, give us an opportunity to, is there anything that's on your mind, questions, feedback, before we launch into whatever is going to show up for today? And just popcorn it, unmute yourself. What is it that might be on your mind to clarify before we go on? Sharon just unmuted, so I'm going to call on her.
And I'm happy to wait to if other people want to jump in, but this goes back to the very beginning. If you could direct me, perhaps. I never really got a solid grasp on the numbers. Like I'm trying to, I really like, I'm kind of a big picture, but also foundation type of person. And so 8 dimensions, 8 families, 12 families, 13 families, 8 worlds. Like I'm not clear. So are there handouts? Should I go back to which session? I wonder if you can guide me. I only have 3, I think 2 things I've printed, and one is the dimensions. And one lists, it has the colors for the divine families, but I can't even remember all the names, all the categories: curiosity and joy and leadership and creativity. And is there a place I could just find that all in one place and have it to refer to?
That's a good question, because probably yes and no. I think a lot of it's just interacted with the audio, with the video and showing them and the handouts, and I haven't put it into direct. Christina's showing something here, so I think there,
that's your PDF. That's one of your PDFs that you handed out. I don't know when, but. And
so maybe
you have the colors.
Yeah, it has the names of the families and all that. Okay, I'll look. I just didn't. I was hoping for some guidance because I don't know how far back to go or where to look. But and I'm happy to help craft something like that if that seems like it would be helpful to you in the future.
I think it's a really good idea, because the information is all there, kind of like in the videos themselves with some handouts, but I haven't created a whole, I've got an outline that I'm following, but I haven't created that because other than handouts as we go along, because there's, it looks like there's a lot of pivots. And so having created ahead of time would have been difficult, but so there definitely is. I'll just put this on the screen. It's something you already have, or maybe not. But again, there's 7 families in our Divine Star Family group. This is one of the families in the galaxy. We are one collective. And one of the things that brought us together was our entrapment from the outsiders. So, curiosity, joy, I'll just make a note to maybe put like you said, how many worlds, how many families. That might be just an easy one to put together and get to you. And the other one, of course, you all already have, but I'm going to just put this back into the again in the recording, but I'll leave it here on my desktop so that I can say, okay, well, let's create this one. And so those are the various families, and they're not labeled by number, but but they could be labeled by number, by name, a quality. When they began, they were more like a color range, a sound range. It becomes a quality when it becomes slower. We experience the best qualities. Where up there, it's more like this. I'm going to play this range of the music, and you're going to play that range of the music. Up there, it's more color, and we define that color as a quality when we're more in this earth experience. And yes, there are 8 worlds through which we have traveled. 8 world being the densest and earth right here. You've got that one. The Hermetic tradition from the mystery schools use source up here, which is where we came from, home source, and they call that 1. And so they have their system has 9 worlds, but it's a very similar model, except I never did call source one. I call the first world where we began the adventure, if you will. So you're right, 8 worlds. Every world has 8 dimensional regions or frequency ranges. So there's a total of 64 dimensions in this model. Okay. So that when we pull out this Earth experience, 8, then what we get is the 8 dimensions that are here. I'll just put that out there.
And I didn't mean to put you on the spot or take too much time.
No, that's okay. Sometimes the question is what brings us all back together in a fashion that's helpful to go forward with. So then when you take out that lower dimension, and this red thing shouldn't be there, this is the Earth, and that shows you the example of how each world has 8 dimensions within it, and all the dimensions is determined by the frequency, how fast or how slow. So because we're in this world of this adventure that got hijacked, if you will, invaded by the outsiders, their energy is really what caused us to slow down in frequency. We're dropping in frequency. We are in a frequency fall from our divine identity. Each world has these 8 dimensions within it, and it's all about how the rate of the vibration.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else got something they want to put on the table? Okay. So when I began asking for information about energy and energy healing, well, no, even before that, when I started asking questions that was related to myself as a wife and a mother, because that's where I used that ability, discovered the ability really to be able to ask a question and get words and write them down. Not automatic writing, but definitely just in my head, like I'm listening to a phone, I'm writing it down without editing. I'm just writing it down. And then afterward, I'd go back and read it, and how did it sound like someone who was full of love or hate or anger, and if I applied those ideas, would that bring greater love? I mean, that was kind of the criteria. The name that came immediately with that very first writing was Jesus, and of course, having grown up in a Christian patriarchal system, that is probably not unusual. But that was the name that my first teacher gave me. Eventually that name changed to Sananda, which is a title of Jesus. I don't know much about that. All I cared about, because I never did care about names, I cared about quality of information, quality of experience, quality of application. And over the years, I have had pretty much every ascended master or archangel show up with information, always under kind of the overlay of Christ or Sananda. And that presence was always there, that I would always say should I listen to this guy? I don't know this voice. I mean, I don't recognize this voice. Do you? So that over guidance from Sananda has been constant through all of the years since 71. When I stepped into the healing arena in 89 to begin asking questions of how can we use this ability to be in the unseen worlds to free people from their repeating patterns of pain, humanity was stuck. I just kept seeing triggers and then calm and then triggers and then it was just onion layer. I didn't like it, and that's when they said, okay, we will give you the information, because we can't send you to anyone to learn from on the planet, because that information doesn't exist, therefore it's not being done. And so in the first, I'd say 2 to 3 years, I had, for example, I had Saint Germain come. There was a point in the late 80s, early 90s, where it was really a big scare to get to someplace on the planet where you're going to be safe, because the earth's going to change and ocean's going to comes up and mountains are going to fall, and all earth changes were going to be so violent. You had to be where you were safe. And so Saint Germain showed up one day in my room, probably at night, because that's when they usually seem to be able to come through easier, and said, I want you to work with me, and so that we can get people moved to places on the planet where they'll be safe. There was a map out there. I mean, there was a lot of stuff being gotten. Where are you going to store your food? And it was big. I don't know that it's as big anymore, but it was very big. And he wanted me to work with him to get out there and get people moving around. And I thought about it, and I went and I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work with people to get out of their fear. Then they can decide and choose where they want to go to be safe. But I am not going to play on the fear angle. And what I discovered in that period of time is that even those who we called at that point ascended masters, archangels, were functioning under the eons of time on this lifetime where we had no authority voice in the female bodysuit. So without authority voice in the female bodysuit, all we could do is stay small, keep hopeful. Stay small, keep hopeful. So if you go back to the writings of that time, even the channelings from that time, it was like, all there is love, just be, it was just all calming stuff, but it wasn't waking people up. But why wake people up if they don't have a means of getting out of the trapped state they were in? And so there was a period of time where I had to begin to work with those in unseen worlds and with my team to let them know we've got another plan. The mission plan is being activated again. And so it was very interesting to me to see that what we have been doing for eons and eons of time is trying to stay safe, trying to survive, trying to stay hopeful, while at the same time hoping that we can get back to Earth mission, which was dominating energies here, dominating energies in the galactic world. We are owned, and the female voice and sensitivity is what was intended to clear them out, getting back to that. So, and it was almost like educating those on those higher planes to the fact that we had this component being activated again. So that was very interesting to me. I was in a conversation circle and people were talking about books, what book fell out of the shelf on, how it falls out of onto your head, and you go like, whoa, where did that book come from? And I was it was in that early stages, and I went into a bookstore in Salt Lake City, Utah, and wondering, where can I go to begin to understand a little bit about what I was getting, because certainly it was interesting. And I went into the books, and the book that fell on my head, I can't even remember the name of it. I think it was written by Catherine Montgomery, maybe. I don't know. She's talking about walk-ins. Walk-ins. How many of you have heard of walk-ins? Here I am, this little Christian raised girl, patriarchal girl. Walk-ins, I've never heard in my life, had I heard of walk-ins. And again, this is in the early 90s. Walk-ins, the concept of walk-ins is this. A soul in this bodysuit, it was usually, the soul was tired. It was tired. It had been worn down and really edging toward either disease or suicide. And a soul in the unseen world would make contact with the soul in the body and say, I could use your body. I could use where you are to hop on to my mission without having to be born into a baby body? Could we exchange? It's always an agreement. Could we exchange? Yes or no? And if there was an agreement of an exchange, then there'd be an exchange. It might be an accident and a coma. It might be go to sleep, wake up. It happened in a lot of different ways that you'd wake up and the soul in that body would be a different soul. And the soul that had been in the body effortlessly left. Walk-ins. So this walk-in then had the responsibility to finish up some of the duties, responsibilities, loose ends that the original soul had left behind. So that was a little bit of sweeping up what's not yours before then you could get on with what it is you want to do. This happened. It's not uncommon for somebody who goes into a coma or has an accident or goes through surgery and they wake up and all of a sudden they have these psychic gifts. Walk in and exchange. Totally different soul. Sometimes those souls energies were quite aligned, so it wasn't a big shift for people around, but often it was like, clear out that closet. Why did I choose the color for my walls? You know, it was like major difference. It was like a whole identity change. California had what they called walk-in support groups. Of course, California would have that. And part of what I was called to do is to check on those who had walk-in experience to make sure that they'd seated themselves correctly in the vehicle, that they'd landed correctly. So it was really interesting. But when that book fell off the shelf, I had no idea what that was about. I'd never heard of it before. But in doing this what I call the Rianne mission, which is the tag stuff, what I discovered is there's another form of walk-in, and that is 3 or 4 or 1 or 2 different souls who are committed to the same outcome or to the same mission outcome. Take turns. It's like a relay team. I'll come in and bring the information. I'll be there for a while. Then I'll come in and so it was a relay team, and that's what happened. How the information from that has what I call the Galactic Odyssey, that's really how it came about. It didn't come through me, the original soul. Me, the original soul, made it possible for there be an authority to say, yes, bring it in, because that has to happen on the planet. But a lot of this information and a lot of the permissions and a lot of the things that came in because there was other souls waiting to bring that information in. They'd come, they'd do it, they'd be there maybe for sometimes a year or 2 and then off. And so it was a very interesting experience. And so the walk-in book was perfectly appropriate. Later on, I understood. I don't run into walk-ins very often anymore, but check on them periodically, because landing is a good, landing in the bodysuit is really a good thing to do. So yes, Emma.
In the relay team example, Sharon, does the original soul stay put while the other ones kind of come for a little family visit?
In my experience, the original soul is outside the body, but part of the team.
Does it come back, or
sometimes
when the other ones are finished?
Yeah, sometimes it does. You know what it feels like to me now, and I can only say how it feels like to me. In that particular example, there was a time that my children weren't my children. I didn't have that birth connection. The memory of the original, everything about the original is still in the bodysuit. You don't lose that. So there's still that. But there was a period of time that was like, whoa, I was on mission, and that sense of mother connection was not present in the same way. It feels like the original's back. I haven't checked for a long time. That hasn't happened for several years. Because I think the material's here.
Thank you.
So knowing knowing what we do, just in what we've learned so far in the Galactic Odyssey is important, but it's not enough. Knowing is just the beginning. You guys have heard all the conspiracy theorists out there, right? And heard of them and the impact they're having. And what's common with all of them is saying, hey, there's some dark people around and you must be it. There's some dark people around, and that, I mean, they have that nugget. There is some dark, what we, in my system, we call the outsider dominator energy is around. They're saying that. And they've been saying that for a long time. David Icke is a good example of that. So they have that much. Are they out there? Yes. Is it being used to manipulate? Yes. Is it being used to create something different? Yes. And then they get all wound up in a powerless space instead of going like, well, then what do we do about it? And so that's what makes this group, knowing that there are outsider domination energies, factions out in our world and have been for a very long time. We know that. What do you do with that information is critical. It moves you off the stage of manipulating people through the fear for what outcome? I don't even know what outcome that is. What outcome does that bring? Confusion, scarcity, division. I mean, totally in alignment with what the outsiders would want. So knowing that there are outside dominators in our midst and knowing what then to do about it and why and how moves you into mastery. So having information isn't enough. What are you going to do about it? So we're going to take a little time, and I'm going to have us consider 3 of the concepts initially that we know has changed. So in the third world is when the chip to create chaos was implanted and couldn't get, and it needed the 13th group. We needed an outside help to get that chip removed. We now know that by 2001, 2002, the chips had been removed. So it was not automatic. Up until then, balance, imbalance was a constant from the galactic worlds. Constant. It didn't come because you were abused as a child or because your mother spoke harshly to you as a child. It was a constant flow. Balance, imbalance, balance, imbalance, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The chip removed. Now that energy of home or divine family agenda of good can stay balanced. Without the chip, can stay balanced. What else do we know? We know that the outsiders wanted to attach themselves to this juicy family groups to use their energy because that's their job. That's who they are. But they had to have a way to get in. So they started broadcasting very beautiful, subtle message that says, you guys are doing great. Look at you. Oh my gosh. But you're not very old. You're just new on this journey. I don't think you know enough. You're not enough yet. Not enough yet. You don't know enough. You're not young, old enough. You're not strong enough. You're not enough. That was a broadcasting that came from the outsiders that our families said, oh, okay, help us. Naivety. And we let them in because the broadcasting we listened to and believed and acted on. The not enough message does not come from early childhood genetic trauma. It comes from the broadcaster towers in the galactic worlds, in the third world, that we know have been dismantled. It's no longer a constant. So the constant's gone. The impact, are we still believing it? Did we pass it on? That's on us. The third thing we know is that when the chip was inserted, there was also the concept is when we move the chip out, we have to have somebody who helps us move it out and get back to alignment. We need somebody else's help to get back to alignment. And we've changed that whole program to says, no, you make a choice. You might make a choice and be in fear and be anxious and do all your, dance of confusion. But as soon as a soul wakes up and says, oh, I'm done with that, they alone can say, okay, and put themselves back into harmony. Now, will they look for somebody maybe who could show them a process? Yeah. Will they look for somebody who can kind of mentor them into that? Yeah, that's good, but it's not required. Where we had it in our mentality, we needed a savior. That was eliminated. So here's the things I'm going to have you ponder, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next. There'll be questions. So, but number one, domination was a constant flow until the chip was removed. So here's you're going to be asking each other and getting your own personal answers. I'll tell you the process in a minute, but here's the question. Does the constant domination flow exist? I'll post them too. I'm just going to have to, I broadcast them into the room, I think. Does the constant domination flow exist in any of my energy fields? And you're going to get the answer. And how stable am I in that? You're going to ask a question of yourself when we go into breakout rooms, and you're going to ask each other the question, one sitting quietly, getting the answer intuitively, just trust the answer. And then when you're finished with one segment of questions, then you would do the question asking for the other. So we are going to do some evaluation on you. Because often what I find, even with myself, I have to stop periodically and say, how much do I believe this? I know it. Do I believe it? I know it, but is it solid? Because I need to know that, because then I can know what to do about it. So we're going to take a break for about 5 minutes. And I think the best way, when you come back, I'll put you into groups. And I think the best way is to just get into the experience, to walk the question, see what it's like, and rather than me try to explain it ahead of time. Okay, you ready? Emma?
You asked about a constant flow. Is there a constant flow? Would that be different than an intermittent flow?
Yeah.
Sorry for being picky.
Well, if you have a constant flow, that means it's always available to you, right? But if you have anything in the way of it, it's going to be breakup, or it's going to be a partial. It's going to have some interference there that you'll want to know about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. It is we'll do 5 minutes, which will be 52 before the. Let's just do 3 after the hour. Okay, will that'll give us 6, I think, minutes, whatever. Let's do 3 after the hour. It was a lot longer than 5 minutes, wasn't it?
I actually heard 3 after the hour, and then I thought that can't be. That would be like 15 minutes.
I did say 3 after the hour.
You did, didn't you?
I did.
But I wasn't sure, and I thought that's not possible.
No, it was possible. I just thought, I looked at my little clock up there and I went, oh, well, 3 after the hour. And I'm going like, wow. And now I'm sitting with it and going like, that was a lot longer than 5 minutes. Oh, well. That's why I don't do financial books. You know, my mind goes, ah. So I'll come back early when Tara and Emma, if they get here a little bit early. You might have given Emma time to get her dog outside for a little break. What I found was that for myself, and so if I'm learning it for myself, I'm going to pass it on, that some of our hope in other lifetimes was just, can we get through the lifetime without adding more negativity? So sitting in meditation helped us get through it without adding more negativity, but we didn't have the truths restored so that we could get rid of what density was there, you know? And so even, you know, for myself, I've had to periodically make it a habit to periodically check with my guidance, my teams and my guides, to say, is, you know, we've moved quickly and we're now in this way, on this model, and on this platform of concepts, and is everybody in my team up to speed? And be willing that sometimes they're not up to speed. They need to have a break. They need to go educated. They need to bring somebody else into the mix who has some skills. It might not be a walk-in, but it nevertheless is a team member that's ready to come on board to help you move through what you're next being called to move through. So that's why it's important to at least think about evaluating yourself and your energies and your team periodically. And so that's why we're going to do this. Yeah, Christine knows that. That's why we're going to take a little time here. And again, that makes perfect sense when I thought about it and wrote it down. So I'm hoping that they'll make sense to you. So I just mentioned 3 things from the galactic world that's changed. And that is the domination energy, or the domination broadcasting of not enough. It's not coming in from there any longer. The other thing that's changed is the chip for constant shift between fear and balance, is not coming from galactic any longer. Now we still might have that in our brain, in our automatic, but that's all it is. It's an automatic. It's not coming from there any longer. And also, energy can now just self-correct, because we say finished with that, unplug the pattern, and it self-corrects to divine frequency. You don't have to put something in. You don't have to have somebody else do it for you. Even you can learn from each other. But so there are those 3 questions, our statements will be the foundation for questions you're going to ask yourself, each other. Actually, there'll be 2 in a room. I think there might be one with 3, but mostly 2 in a room. And so one person will ask the question of the other under each heading. And I think there's 2 questions. And then when the person that's being asked the question, your job is to just listen, calm yourself, neutralize yourself, listen to what you hear moving through you or feel moving through you. If you want to use a pendulum, you can. Just let the answer come. It's not a judgment. It's not you're good or bad, nothing like that. It's just information. What's your answer? And write it down. Then the next question, get your answer, write it down, and then shift. And now you become that question asker for your sister. Then you go to the next, the second concept, ask the questions. Go to the third concept, ask the questions. So I'm going to leave you in the rooms for 20 minutes. So you can, you can really have time to just be in the quiet. If there's no answer that comes for a while, just be still and just let yourself, feel whatever the answer might be. And no need to prompt unless that question asker feels to ask the question one more time, just to let it be there. So we're going to be in right brain, but not editing. You're not going to try and change it or understand it. Just let it be. And I've been able to get them into the chat. So I'm going to put them in the chat. You don't have to, you're not going to, because as far as I remember, the chat will follow you into your rooms. So when you go into your rooms, the questions will be there. And then you can decide who wants to ask the question first and who wants to ask the, be the second one. And there's always, I think, a way in the rooms. If you have a question of me, you can send it to me. And you got 20 minutes. The room, you'll get a notice of the room closing in 1. So whatever you do with your 20-minute time is totally up to you. And here you go. And enjoy. Hello, Christina. It's not moving you, huh?
Hello. No, it's not.
Okay, I've got you in. You're supposed. Oh, I see. I'm putting you in room 1. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Alexandra, is your phone in a room with somebody? Yeah, you should be. Should be fine.